Well, we have a guest with us now, and he wants a grand entrance. It's the best I can do. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. H.
How's it going?
Wow.
We'll get you some claps.
Oh dear. Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Good morning. How are you doing? Well, actually, it's
and the
afternoon or evening for you.
The crowd is going wild.
It's because I've been just for content's sake, audience. I've been sat here on backstage for a little while, and they were like, "Oh, we'll bring you in a minute." I'm like, "Oh, the best entrance ever." You've been keeping me waiting. So it's comedy, of course. It was a joke. How are we all? Are we all good?
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good.
Yes. Good morning.
Especially those of us that haven't seen Andor yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. Like from a technical level, it's very well shot.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm hearing. People don't hate it.
Yeah, that's what happens when you actually have somebody who knows what they're doing running a show, baby. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's also utilized. This is the only Star Wars show at the moment that's utilized UK film crew. Like a lot of their production crew's all been UK stuff, and it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but there is a reason why Hollywood comes to the UK to shoot, film, edit, do all that kind of stuff, set builders, all that stuff, because the UK industry for that is some of the best in the world. Yeah. I know Hollywood it's the base camp, but they shoot a lot of stuff over here for a reason. Like Pinewood Studios is the best in the world for a reason. So that is, I mean, it's the best looking thing that Star Wars has produced for goodness knows how long. Slow burn has seemingly been the major complaint, I guess. And as much as I can see that, I think it's very much a subjective taste thing. You know, like I can appreciate a slow burn if I am, engrossed in the characters and the story that is slowly developing. So I enjoyed it. Like I had a good time with it.
Very cool. I look forward to seeing it and reviewing it in the separate review stream that we will be having on Andor as soon as I get to see the 3 episodes. But something else has dropped other than Andor. Yesterday, we finally got the trailer for a movie that most of us, I'm not so sure about the culture, but the rest of us are really, really excited for. Oh. Namely, the upcoming Hellraiser.
And, greater delights await.
Exactly. And I thought it was going to be the Bring It On horror sequel.
So good.
And Nate, of course, is one of the most, or perhaps the most prolific Hellraiser YouTubers out there. So I'm very happy to have you here to break down this trailer and share your views on it. But before we give the word to you, because I'm a Hellraiser fan, Tom is a Hellraiser fan. Culture, you're not that big a Hellraiser fan. Like I don't know that you dislike it, but it's
no. I actually enjoyed Hellraiser. I mean, I'm not going to go in depth. I mean, I'm a horror fan, and I think it's that I have to say that I'm looking forward to this now. I thought the trailer was very well done, so I'm pretty stunned.
All right. Mr. Rach, give us your take on the trailer. Did you like it? Were you, of course, just so everyone knows that Mr. Rach has been covering this movie for a very long time already. You have had some scoops. You've broken down some leaks. You have, of course, as so many times before, been 100% vindicated with the release of this trailer, which basically just confirms your reporting to have been 100% accurate the whole time. Yeah. Now that the trailer is out here, did it live up to your expectations?
So it's always interesting. I'm sure you're much the same. You know, when you know what's going to happen in a film, it's always interesting to see that play out and presented, because obviously when you hear about leaks and things like that, you are told from a range of sources or a singular source their opinion on something, right? And that's all it is. And then you can deduce from that, from what they've advised you, narratively speaking, what your opinion on it is likely to be. So it's always interesting, I find, when you've had pretty key leaks on certain things, and then you come to the trailer and you watch it, and it's presented to you, and you're like, okay, interesting. What's and does your opinion match up to what you had previously thought based on no actual, nothing tangible to see or anything like that? And so I went into it, and I even say in my video, I'm like, oh, I'm probably not going to act surprised because I know what's going to happen. Like, I know what happens in the film, which is something I think is important to say if you're going to do a reaction, just so people know that you haven't watched it already or anything like that. But I was very surprised because it, in terms of how it's presented, was significantly better than I thought it was going to be. It far exceeded my expectations, above and beyond what I thought. The props of the puzzle box, I said last week, wasn't it? It was last week. Or was it this? I can't remember when I last was on it. We discussed the box, and I said, hey, there's going to be multiple boxes that will change and it will cut people. And you see all of that play out. But I wasn't expecting the prop to be as intricate and as nicely designed as it was. Each individual prop was very good. The key part of the trailer, which I absolutely love and adore, and I cannot wait to freeze frame and read it all, is the book, the manuscript, the lore, all this stuff. There's little tidbits of information, I love all of that. The chatterer randomly just walking out, fantastic. It's a very well edited trailer for multiple reasons. We know this world, we know the Cenobites, we know these things. There's no real point hiding this any longer. So in terms of how they gave it to us and showed it to us, there's still the air of mystery. They didn't shy away from showing us things, but we still haven't seen it all. There's more Cenobites we haven't seen. The one shot, which was just absolutely, this is a beautiful shot, really, really good. One of the best shots in the whole trailer was just the fact that they went balls to the wall. Here's the labyrinth, and here's Leviathan coming down out of the clouds. Very H.P. Lovecraft. It's back to its roots, and that's the key thing here. It really is back to its roots. Clive Barker, Stephen King, Guillermo del Toro, the great horror artists out there were all inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. There's no denying it. They all admit it. But as Hollywood took these horror properties and developed them further and further, we went away from that core inspiration and into more commercialized horror. This is somewhat a blend of that. We can see there's kids and stuff. Whatever, we need cannon fodder. I don't get that as a major complaint, but we're really coming back to the basics, it seems. And what a fantastic casting of that Goran guy when he's like, it's a puzzle, solve it. Like, will I get a prize? I will. Just so cheeky but controlled, sinister, yet somewhat charismatic. Fantastic. The voice, again, I kind of revealed that to you, but the voice itself was above and beyond what I thought it was going to be. Because when someone says it's sort of been modulated to be sort of ethereal, a bit sort of cosmic, what does that mean? That's just someone's opinion, and then you base your opinion on what you think that to be. I think they nailed the voice. I think everything's. I really am happy with this. There's the cinematography was great. There's so much in this. I did like a 20-minute video on it. The juxtaposition between the box and the house, and the framing of certain windows, which are reminiscent of the framing of the box, and the intricate details. There's one shot in the trailer where there's a circular piece of glass with a square framing and paneling all around it. It's the box. And so it alludes to a grandiose, more machinations at play. There you go. I've rabbited on enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was really pleasantly surprised by the trailer, and of course, this movie is not going to be for everyone, but for those that can appreciate the beauty of the macabre, I think this movie is going to be a masterpiece. I think this is going to be, after seeing this trailer, after seeing the Cenobites, I think this is going to be a macabre cinematic piece of art.
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking forward
think.
Sorry.
Yeah, so well, as someone who's not hugely familiar with the Hellraiser franchise or in terms of the fandom and things, what did you think of it, Mr. Casino?
Well, I like I said, I said my first reaction was it's really well done. I loved everything in the trailer. I thought it shot very well. You're right. It has that like very creepy, cheeky comedy of, I'll get
a prize.
That's right. I was like, this is brilliant. And like I said, there is a departure in the voice for the Cenobite and all of that, but I don't care. Right. I'm looking forward to this film because it looks good. It has everything you need in good horror. It's already in your head. That's the most important thing when you go into a horror film is it's got to get into your head right away. I mean, it's just that has to be set up, and it was set up beautifully in the trailer. I hope it's equally as well set up in the film. I'm looking forward to that.
I will say, though, that one thing that we discussed yesterday in the Mead stream was that neither Tom nor myself were too taken with the voice. I understand the logic of it, because this is someone that obviously has a piece of the box jammed straight into the larynx. So that's obviously going to affect the voice. And because of that, I obviously accept the voice, but it's not the voice that I would have preferred. Because looking at the picture...
So what would you have gone with? Because I actually quite like it, and I'll say why after. So what would you have gone with?
Well, given that there's like that the person literally has a voice box than this, but what I would have gone with is something far more androgynous, something that's going to sound male at sometimes in some phrases.
See, I thought it was like phrases, that,
and more ethereal in other things. And yeah, you're right. It is kind of a little bit like that, but to me, it doesn't sound cosmic. It just sounds metallic and distorted. That's how it's in my ears.
Yeah,
whereas I would have liked it to be as you had described, like cosmic and ethereal. And I see how people can interpret it that way, but that would not be my interpretation of those words.
Yeah, see,
precisely. I would like the voice to be something like that, but that's not how I understand what I understand those terms to mean.
Yeah, when you hear cosmic, that's not your instant. It's not in your mind's eye. It's not what you hear, which is interesting because it's not what I heard either when it was related to me. I didn't hear that. But I like what they've done with it because I think to me, it's interesting that you say you'd like it to be more androgynous because to me, I thought it walked that line quite nicely. It's difficult, isn't it? Because when you make these kind of critiques, it's always important to try to come up with a justification for what you would actually do. And so when I'm thinking about it and I'm thinking like, well, it's fairly androgynous. Like it treads the line between the two. It's deep enough, like it's sort of raspy enough. Yet you can still sort of tell it's a woman, but not feminine. It treads the line. It blurs those lines. I can't quite think what I would. You could make it more androgynous, but when I say that, I can't think of what I would personally do to change it. I know what I would
do.
So I know what I would do if I'm thinking about it being more cosmic, right? Like I would maybe resonate and sort of echo a little bit, and maybe just have the same voice but the pitch altered, and have that have it sort of drawn out, so it's almost like an echo. You have a gravelly voice, then a more childlike woman voice coming in on the back end and sort of echoing the words slightly. That would be my sort of cosmic take on it. But what would you do, Tom?
Yeah, Tom.
Well, because like I agree more with Andre. If you're going to do this whole thing with making it androgynous and you're going to hire a trans actor to play the part, then use that to the advantage. Go with what the original book says, and use the fact that you can't quite tell. But in the book, it does say that Pinhead has the voice basically of an excited girl. So what I'm saying. I get what you're saying with the echo thing, and that could be one way of doing it. Otherwise, what I would do is just have it slightly alternate between the two, like have Jamie do two different versions of each line, one with a more feminine, soft voice, and one with a more
Yeah.
dark baritone voice, and then just kind of find a way to use the computer, and you
Interweave
don't even
them.
interweave them between the two, and it doesn't even have to be like all like processed shit either. You can just have it go from like, you know, your soul will, you know, and then it go suffer greatly, you know, just something like, you know, just blend perfectly between the two, and you just can never tell quite where it's going, you know.
Do you not think that would run the risk of coming across slightly comedic, though? Do you not think?
It could, but at this point, to me, what they're doing with the voice is just a ripoff of Doug Bradley's voice. To me, they're like,
get that. So his voice is very. I mean, it's
it
not
is
even
very
his voice,
deep, but it's like just that idea of how they're doing
voice.
it.
It was, I mean, his voice was always modulated, which seldom do people.
That's what I'm saying. Is it just sounds like a modulated voice to me.
In Inferno, where it wasn't modulated,
but that's what I'm getting at. Is to me, it just sounds like a modulated voice. It doesn't sound like anything I've never heard before. It doesn't sound like, you know, angel meets demon or anything like that kind of thing.
That was my point, because I also think that the voice, it just sounds modulated. I don't get anything ethereal. I love the look. I think that Jamie Clayton is a genius piece of casting. And just to address that, because I saw some people in the chat were unsure about it. Jamie Clayton was born a male and transitioned to female in 2003, and not transitioned like Ezra Miller, who just claims to be a they them, but went literally all the way, surgery and everything. And even apparently dated Keanu Reeves at one point. And
that's the rumor anyway.
That's the rumor anyway, yeah. And also, one thing that Jamie Clayton has struggled in with the career is that she doesn't get female roles, too many pure female roles. She has more of those, and she definitely doesn't get the trans roles because she looks too female for those. She's someone that is completely passing as a female. But anyway, for those wondering what's up with that, so basically that's the status of Jamie Clayton, who's very open about that, like, very open about her transitioning process, and identifies as she and not they them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think so. Removing the Cenobites from the equation, I think what I'm potentially most excited about with all of this is being able to explore and see Leviathan and the Labyrinth in the way that they would have liked to have done when Hellbound was made. Because that is, it's, you know, if they're the technology back then, I'm sure we would have got what actually we see in that trailer, right? There's a lot of callbacks to that sort of look. That, I mean, the framing's exactly the same, but it's more tangible. It's more
on
3D,
that note,
we
actually brought that up last night, Mr. H. So what's your reaction to this? Because the director actually did bring up that there could be, or this could be more like a part 10, or I mean,
or
part 11
actually,
than it is actually a part 1. So do you see the connections? Because go ahead.
So I think I know why those things are being said. But so there's a few things to consider here. So when I initially leaked all of Candyman, like 2 years before its release, back then Tony Todd wasn't in it, right? They did the test screenings, he wasn't in it at all, and then he got CGI'd over the top of people's faces, right? And then that was, boom, the connection to Candyman. Because back then that just wasn't the case. Currently, at this point in time, a couple of months back when they did their test screenings, there was no connection remotely at all to the original Hellraisers, right? Zero connection. The Cenobite creations are entirely different, like how they're made, completely different, not horrifying. It's nothing like that. It is almost like a beautiful transcendence of being, right? Like very, you know, bright white lights, not painful, just lacerations appearing. It's very sort of angelic, right? It's play on the angels to some, demons to others. So there are no connections. The box is entirely different. Loads of people will say, well, in Hellbound, there are multiple boxes. Sure. But if they worked, then he would have accessed them before now. So the logic being for Hellbound, actually, those boxes on display were just display boxes, right? There's a logical train of thought there, because he had one finally, and then it was that one which he used in that film. Otherwise, we would have had the Dr. Cenobite way before Hellbound, the movie. So no connections at all, completely different. However, they may CGI over the top of people or add in a connection here and there, a subtle nod, right? They may do that. That's likely. You never know. And the reason why it's likely is because this film was, I'm fairly certain it was underway. And that's when Clive Barker got the rights back to it. That's then when it got sent to Hulu, because Clive has a working relationship with Hulu. He obviously did the lawsuit. He won the rights back via copyright law, fair and square, whatever, doesn't matter. And that's the reason why it went to Hulu. Clive Barker's not actually involved in this per se. He, much like James Cameron for Terminator, he got the rights back and James Cameron sold the rights off again. Clive Barker got the rights back and he's obviously allowed Spyglass Media Group, the same company that was working on it anyway, David Bruckner, the same director that was working on it, and all of the writers, so on and so forth, he's allowed them to continue. And then he likely secured the distribution deal through Hulu because he has that working relationship with Books of Blood and so on and so forth. So it may be now because Clive Barker was involved that they then add something, or it may be because Clive Barker is involved, there is now an added grey area with the rights of the previous movies, which you guys know as well as I do, the rights are a massive mess. But it
some of the worst
be,
ones out there.
But yeah, it is just a shit show. But it may be that there's some legalese in there somewhere, because obviously companies are dissolved, they've been sold off, no studio heads are there anymore, whatever, that now Clive has a smidgen more of the rights to control or at least present those films and have a connection. Maybe. But that's the only way. From what I know of the film, no connection at all. Loads of people are like, this is Kirsty. It's not Kirsty Cotton. Loads of people are like, well, it's different boxes. Sure. But then the Labyrinth and Leviathan, Leviathan looks the same, but then the Cenobite creation would be the same. Like that's my explanation anyway. That's my sort of thought,
Yeah.
Sort of thoughts on
I actually have a theory for creatively how they can be in the same universe. And because I'm a huge Hellraiser fan, and the only way you can justify the new movie sharing continuity with the other ones is that then you have to accept everything Hellraiser. You have to accept every movie, and you have to accept every comic book as canon. The moment you do, or certainly, well, you have to accept the new Boom ones, but you do have to accept the vintage Epic ones. And the company, the Marvel imprint, is literally Epic. So they were Epic, and they were from Epic. If you accept those as canon to this, then you have a creative way of how you do it. Because according to those comics, the Pinhead Cenobite is a kind of like an eternal shape that's always there.
You're talking about the Zyptotech one? Is that? Yeah.
Exactly. The Elliot Spencer iteration, the one played by Doug Bradley, that's just a contemporary one. That's like number 20 in the line. There has been countless Pinhead Cenobites before him.
It's a title.
Exactly. It's a title and look that is inherited. And we saw then towards the end of Hellraiser Judgment that he's basically evicted from hell. He's kicked out. And this then canonically you have to accept that this is the Doug Bradley Pinhead. He just looks kind of different now. So then Elliot Spencer, the character played the human counterpart of the Doug Bradley Pinhead, has been evicted from hell. So now someone else gets to be Pinhead instead. But the Cenobites look all different. Aha! But there is precedent for this as well. Just again, look back to the comics. There's fashion in hell, and fashion changes. We saw this even on screen in Hellraiser Bloodline. Remember in the past segment when Angelique, she is created in the 18th century, she gets her information, or 17th century actually, she gets her information about hell then, and then she spends the next few centuries on Earth, cut off from hell. And then, in our contemporary time, she interacts with Hell again. She sees Pinhead. She's like, "The hell is this? Why do you look like this?" And he's like, "Well, fashion changed. This is how we do right now, and you're going to become like us." Yeah. So maybe the fashion just changed one more time, and this is what Cenobites look like now, and that's their new creative process. That's a creative reason for how they can all share continuity.
There is a further expansion upon that, using that same methodology by which actually they can all coexist, and then you set up not a multiverse, because
you have the different divisions of the hell, like for instance in Judgment, you have the Stygian Inquisition and you have the Order of the Gash.
No, it's a simpler way of doing it. So in the comics, a gash is merely a group of Cenobites, and there are multiple gashes. So it could merely be that this new Pinhead is another iteration of another gash, a contending gash with the current other Pinhead or competing Pinhead, whatever. Pinhead. There are other ways. It's the same. It's taking your idea and giving it another justification to be.
So basically, there's plenty of ways they can do this and remain true to canon with and have it share continuity. So basically, this very well could be Part 11.
Yeah, I quite like it just being a new thing. I genuinely do. I think
I like that too. I also like that.
I think a fresh idea. Loads of people are like, why did they change the lore? I think it's a good expansion on the lore. I don't
really see too many changes as much as expansion. Yeah. I'd say even in the trailer, they do a pretty good job of giving you a good idea of the basic lore, and it fits along for the most part with the classic lore. I mean, there doesn't seem to be anything out of place.
Well, the only thing that is different is there's a very famous line in Hellraiser 2 where Tiffany is she opens the box and the Cenobites come out and they're about to grab her. And Pinhead walks out and goes, "No, it's not hands that call us, but desire." And so then that always led down the line of thought that to be able to summon the Cenobites, you must be, there is an intrinsic desire to seek out their hellish pleasures and delights, right? Which was interesting for a few reasons, and that's what went hand in hand with actually the first Hellraiser, because the first Hellraiser there was always like a weird sort of incestuous vibe to it with Frank and Kirsty, and there was always like a weird incestuous implication which was developed on from the novella and things like this. It was always a bit weird. And so there was always that mindset that Kirsty had that intrinsic desire to seek out their pleasures. And so in Hellraiser 2, because she wasn't necessarily present, but the Doctor was present along with Julia, although sort of hidden, that was why Tiffany was able to open the box, because desire was there. But then they don't claim the soul of someone that has just opened the box. They have to claim the soul of someone that has desire, which goes back to why in Hellraiser 1, it's a long-winded explanation, but it goes back to why in Hellraiser 1, they're more than willing to take Kirsty, because it builds off the incestuous vibe and that sort of taboo desire, all that kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And also there's another aspect of this movie, completely ignoring the Cenobites, at least partially, is that this appears to have taken as many cues from the Ninth Gate as it has the Hellbound Heart with Goran Visnid's character, who appears to be someone that has really done his research here. And that reminded me of that. And I love the Ninth Gate.
So it's interesting, actually, not that I don't think I ever sent this to you. I don't think I ever sent any of these to you, actually.
Well, do share.
So I think it's purely coincidental, because I don't think David Bruckner would have access to it, because it's the Panos Cosmatos Hellraiser spec script. Well, it wasn't a spec script, which is why they sent lawyers after me. So I did like a breakdown of it. And Panos Cosmatos, the guy who did Mandy and Beyond the Black Rainbow,
exactly. Which script is this?
He did a Hellraiser script for fun, And this is why it wasn't a spec script, thus the studio owned it.
So this is an uncommissioned fan script, basically.
It was his script, which he proposed. He sent direct to Clive Barker, and I had a contact of someone close to Clive Barker, which is how I acquired all of these scripts, basically. But in that script, there was a house that had become the Lament configuration. It was built as a configuration. You know, you open doors, you close doors, and the whole house was a puzzle box. It was this massive hotel. And in this trailer, there's some interesting scenes where a door opens and you're like, okay. And then obviously they go in and you're like, that's the labyrinth. What's going on here? And very similar when they did the framing shot of obviously one of the glass roofs, you know, circular glass with overall a square glass, but circular center, and then puzzle box pieces surrounding it. It's interesting. I think it's purely coincidental because I don't think he would have had it, but it's interesting how those ideas have very clearly blended through here. I don't think the house is a puzzle box. I think, you know, we see a wall open and the puzzle box has been used, and then that's just a doorway to the labyrinth, basically, just like happens in the hospital in Hellraiser 2. But I think more so what's probably going to happen in this, because these are the finer details that I didn't bother to seek out from the source. But I would imagine Goran is such a occult sort of fetishist of the Lament configuration. He has built a house to represent the Lament configuration. That's what I would say, because you can very clearly see it. The whole building itself is very reminiscent.
That would be very Clive Barkerish, because that actually happens in one of the stories on Books of Blood.
Yeah. So I think all in all, I think it's going to be very good. Lots of positive stuff about it. Lots of positive stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that movie.
No, I'm loving digesting it, because listening to you guys talk about it, because like I said, I'm a horror fan, and I enjoyed the original film and everything else, and I didn't really get into the books like you guys did, but Clive Barker.
The comics are fantastic. I did all across lockdown. I did I think it's 9 hours worth. There is literally 9 hour. I think it's a 9 hour long video. I covered all of the Boom comics, and it's a very interesting run. It really jumps the shark at a certain point, but it's very interesting. I mean, if you and anyone else watching, I guess this slight cringy plug, but if you do want to open yourself up to the expanded media of Hellraiser, which is seldom discussed, I have a Hellraiser playlist on, Hellraiser Universe playlist on my channel. Please do go and check it out. I even did a 3-hour Hellbound Heart audiobook as well. And it, those things are easily digestible. You can have them on the background and kind of listen away and things like that. But it'll tell you a lot more about the universe and world. It's a lot deeper than people give it credit for. It is actually quite well thought out.
Yeah, horror is my jam, so it's pretty easy sell there, my friend.